The cloudy day and the threat of rain had no effect on the boys' decision to play outside. They hardly noticed as thunder cracked overhead. They were having a serious conversation about their favorite superheroes, both agreeing that the comic book star All Might was at the top of the list as they walked lively towards the house. The other kids that lived on the street didn't care either. It was Friday, and school was out, so it was time to play outside as moms cooked dinner and fathers came home from work. Katsuki Bakugou was 11 years old, slightly tall for his age, with a skinny but well-built build. His mom, who could never find pants that could reach past his damn ankles and would fit at the waist at the same time, always said that the wind would carry him away. He always brushed his mother's words off, shouting that he could never be carried away by the wind. He had fluffy, spiky, ash-blonde hair that stuck out in all directions, and also fell annoyingly into his crimson eyes, but refused to let his mother cut it for him. His annoying best friend was Izuku Midoryia, who was 11 years old as well. Izuku was shorter than Katsuki, but skinnier. He had forest green hair and emerald eyes. He didn't have spiky hair like Katsuki, much to his chagrin. His hair was more like a mop, and it was shaggy and wavy. He had asked his mother many times if he could grow it out longer than it was now, but his mother was adamant that he has it shortened for school. The boys, who had known each other since preschool and lived across the street from one another, and their parents were also close friends. So naturally, the boys ended up doing everything together. They told one another everything, a bit more aggressively on Katsuki's end, had no secrets, and told no lies to one another. They shared every break from school with each other and had countless amounts of sleepovers. When Izuku was 8, his father left him and his mother. He cried on Katsuki's shoulder one night as they camped in Katsuki's backyard. "Please don't tell anyone that I cried, Kachan. The other kids will pick on me if they knew," Izuku pleaded. "You don't have to worry about that shit. I won't tell. You damn Dagu. Besides, if my dad left, I'd probably cry too," Katsuki said. 615 on Sunset and Anderson was a small white house with dark green shutters. The house numbers were painted in black on a stone next to the concrete steps. 2 dormers were perched on top of the house, like gargoyles that looked to be in total disrepair. They had windows that were covered with broken boards, peeling paint, and holes as a result of weather that had punched its way through. Attached to the side of the house, like a tumor, was a 2-car garage with a short square turret rising out of the roof. It, too, had broken boards covering the windows. The overall disheveled appearance of the house clearly announced that the property had been abandoned and forgotten about, at least by the adults in town. The kids, however, were a different story. They talked about 615 all the time. Rumors spread quickly, as they do in small neighborhoods. It was said that the house was a portal to hell, and you could hear people screaming inside the house at night. It was for sure haunted by the man who used to live there. He had an unfortunate accident falling down the stairs. He laid there for 2 weeks before someone even noticed his absence. Tomura Shigaraki, aka Shitaraki, had not been seen on his lawn yelling at the town kids and local dogs that would trot through his grass every day on their way home from school. Police found his rotting body, removed his remains, and closed up the house. It had been hard to sell for the real estate agents in town. His only living relative was a white-haired foster daughter that hardly knew him. Shigaraki didn't have a will, and after the foster daughter put up the house for sale, she disappeared as well. The agents let the listing and the property go. The town just ignored it and then forgot about it. Things that don't mean anything to anyone can be forgotten easily. As they reached 615, the boys slowed down and stared at the front door from the sidewalk. Last week, Katsuki and Izuku were having one of their famous debates about who, out of the 2 of them, was the bravest. "There's no way that you're braver than me," boasted Katsuki. R2, I'm way more braver than you," Izuku whined. "Fine, prove it. I dare you. I dare you to walk through Shitaraki's house." Izuku thought about it for a few seconds, questioning his courage, and then, with determination, he nodded his head in agreement.
That mean your baby ass is gonna do it?
Katsuki said with an excited grin.
Yep,
Izuku said flatly. So, there they stood, mesmerized and scared by the little white house with dark green shutters. The wind had picked up a bit, and the temperature had certainly dropped.
Dude, I was just joshing you about walking through 615.
Izuku groaned and looked at Katsuki.
I know,
Katsuki replied.
but I want to walk through the house. All the extras in the neighborhood are afraid of this thing. I want to beat it.
Okay, but you're not going alone. God only knows what happened in there,
Izuku said.
We gotta do this quick, though. My mom's gonna wonder where I've been if I don't make it back before dinner.
Oh, I know. You're for sure coming with me. And no shit, Deku, my mom will kill me if I'm late for dinner too. It's just a quick in and out the back door. After that, we'll take the back alley home. Piece of cake,
Katsuki said nonchalantly. Katsuki stepped forward into the yard, and the thunder made itself known again. This time closer and louder. Both boys jumped, looked at each other, and laughed.
Come on, Deku, we don't have all day.
Izuku stepped forward and paused. There wasn't any thunder this time, no loud word of warning from the sky. He breathed a sigh of relief and joined Katsuki on the steps. Katsuki grabbed the screen door and pulled. It creaked as he opened, as one would expect from a creepy house. Both boys looked around to see if anyone was watching. Satisfied that the coast was clear, Katsuki nodded to Izuku and turned the knob on the door and pushed. The door stuck at first, but after Katsuki applied more pressure, the door opened with a popping noise. They stepped into the house and closed the door behind them.
It smells in here,
Izuku complained as he placed his hand over his nose. Katsuki looked around, ignoring Izuku's comment and the smell. The house was full of normal stuff, as if someone was living there. The furniture was placed and poised for anyone that may want a seat. The living room was to the right, and to the left was the dining room. It too looked ready for a family to sit down and enjoy dinner. There were bookshelves, art on the walls, and a china cabinet with dishes on display. There was even a pair of shoes by the door. Directly in front of them was a staircase. The famous staircase that Tomura Shigaraki fell down. Katsuki shuddered at the thought.
Why would someone leave all this stuff here?
Katsuki asked in a whisper.
I don't know, but it's super creepy. Let's just walk through and get out of here,
Izuku replied. Katsuki took a step into the living room and looked around, then turned back toward the stairs. He put a hand on the banister and looked at Izuku.
Wanna go up?
Kachan, no! We're supposed to just walk through and then get out of here. What do you want to go up there?
Izuku cried in a whisper voice.
Deku, don't be such a crybaby. It's just a house. Aren't you curious what's up there? Maybe we can find something to show everyone and prove that we actually came here.
Izuku paused and thought about it for a moment, and then finally gave in. He didn't want to be a baby, especially since he bragged about being braver than Katsuki. After all, he did agree to Katsuki's idea to walk through the house in the first place. Izuku slumped his shoulders and nudged Katsuki up the step. Izuku followed close behind as they climbed up the stairs. When they reached the top, they found themselves in a short hallway. There was a door on each side, and one at the end.
Where should we go first?
Katsuki asked.
To the left, I guess. Good as place as any to start,
Izuku said dryly. The boys slowly walked towards the door on the left. When they reached the door, they heard something behind it. They looked at each other wide-eyed and then leaned in. Katsuki put his ear to the door and could hear a child playing. Singing a tune, actually. It sounded like a girl.
Hello?
Katsuki whispered. They heard something drop to the floor with a thud, then someone running across the room. And then nothing. The room fell silent.
Kachan, seriously, I'm gonna pee or scream, or both if we don't get out of here. Kachan, if our moms knew we were here right now, we'd be in so much trouble.
Katsuki ignored Izuku's pleas, put his hand on the doorknob, and turned it. The door gave a high-pitched moan as it swung open. No one was in the room. Like the rest of 615, it was furnished and decorated. It was a child's room, and the only thing that looked out of place was a large doll laying haphazardly in the middle of the floor. The boys stepped out of the room and closed the door. They waited to hear the child again, but nothing came.
Can we please go now? Izuku urged.
There are 2 more rooms. Chill the fuck out. A quick look, and then we can leave,
Katsuki stated. Katsuki moved across the hall to the door on the right. They both held their breath as they anticipated to hear something, but there was only silence. Katsuki got a chill and shivered. The temperature dropped again, and he could feel goosebumps break out over his arms. As Katsuki reached out for the doorknob, he stopped and took a step back.
Not this one. There's nothing interesting in there. Let's go down the hall,
Katsuki said plainly.
How do you know that, Kachan?
Izuku asked.
I don't know, just a feeling, I guess.
Katsuki glanced at Izuku and smiled. He turned slowly and moved down the hallway to the final door. Izuku followed as quietly as he could. Katsuki put his hand on the door and said,
Maybe you should stay out here, Deku. I wouldn't want anything to happen to you. Your mom would be sad.
Okay,
Izuku said uneasily. Katsuki stepped inside and the door slammed shut. Izuku jumped, screamed, and fell backwards onto the floor. Katsuki was shouting and screaming for help on the other side. Izuku got to his feet quickly and pounded on the door.
Kachan, open the door! I can't open it from out here! Open the door, Katsuki!
In the middle of his own screaming, Katsuki fell silent. Izuku finally noticed the only cries he was hearing were his own, and stopped. Izuku waited, and heard nothing. Izuku called in a whisper for his best friend, and still nothing came. He backed away from the door, and called Katsuki's name again, this time with more volume. The door suddenly swung open, and Katsuki fell into the hallway.
Katsuki! Katsuki!
Izuku shouted as he went to his side.
Ah!
Katsuki shouted and burst out laughing. Izuku screamed and fell backwards and hit his head against the wall. Katsuki continued to laugh hysterically.
You should have seen your face. I got you good, baby. You flipped shit.
Katsuki laughed and wiped tears from his eyes.
Ha ha ha. Very funny, bastard. That wasn't cool,
Izuku exclaimed.
Come on, Deku. I was just joking around. Don't get pissed.
Can we just go now?
Izuku asked in an annoyed voice.
Yeah, geez, sorry. Yes, we can go now. You need a hug?
Katsuki teased ruthlessly.
No, I don't. I just want to go home,
Izuku said. The boys got to their feet and brushed themselves off. Katsuki looked up and saw a dark figure standing at the end of the hall. He nudged Izuku and pointed towards the mass that seemingly appeared out of nowhere. Thunder sounded again, making the boys jump. A bright flash of lightning lit up the hall, and whatever was there was gone.
Did you see that?
Katsuki stammered.
Yeah, let's get out of here,
Izuku replied shakily.
What the fuck was it?
Katsuki asked.
I don't know, and I don't want to stick around to find out. Let's go. Now,
Izuku said stoutly. Katsuki and Izuku moved down the hall and crept down the stairs as quietly as they could. Katsuki made for the door, and Izuku grabbed his shoulder to stop him.
Deku, we need to get out of here.
Kachan, we should go off the back. What if that guy or the thing we saw is out front? It makes sense that we would use the front door, so he's probably out there waiting for us to come running out the front. Let's use the back door.
I guess, but let's go fast. I'm done being here,
Katsuki whispered in desperation. The boys turned toward the dining room. Everything looked as it should. No scary creatures, or dark figures for that matter, were waiting for them. It was a straight shot from the dining room, through the kitchen, and out the back. Even though they wanted to leave 615 as quickly as they could, Katsuki and Izuku moved cautiously to the doorway of the kitchen. It too, like the rest of the house, was clean and ready for someone to make a meal. The counter was clear, except for small appliances and canisters labeled flour and sugar. The refrigerator hummed its familiar tune as it continued to cool the contents left inside. A teapot sat on the stove, filled with water, no doubt. It was just waiting for the owner to come home from a long day of work and be put to use. Katsuki took a timid step forward to the picture-perfect kitchen, and Izuku followed close behind. The door was so close. Just a few steps and they would be outside, safe and sprinting home, never to return to the little white house. Vowing to each other never to tell anyone or talk about what they saw ever again. They slowly walked to the center of the room and paused. Katsuki felt the temperature drop and felt goosebumps break out over his arms again. Katsuki took a few more steps and realized that Izuku wasn't behind him anymore.
Deku, come on. We gotta leave. We're not alone in this house. Something else is here and it doesn't want us to be,
Katsuki whispered. Katsuki stared at Izuku as he moved back towards the kitchen doorway. Only Katsuki could tell it wasn't really his best friend, just something that resembled Izuku. He was smiling, but his teeth were larger and jagged. They could barely be held by his mouth. His eyes were glowing a sinister red instead of a friendly green, and his fingers were longer with sharp fingernails.
We've been waiting for a long time for someone to come over. Why don't you stay and play with us? Your mom won't be expecting you for a bit. It's not even dinner time. For you.
Izuku said, his voice echoing, distorted and playful.
Deku, what are you doing? This isn't funny. You're braver than me. I admit it. I just want to go home,
Katsuki cried. From the dining room, Katsuki could see the dark figure again, the one they had seen before. It walked slowly into the kitchen and stood next to Izuku. It was Tomura Shigaraki. He too had gnarled teeth, so much so that his pale, chapped and cracked lips couldn't close around them. He stood hunched over, and his curved spine had broken through his almost translucent skin. He gripped the door frame as he walked with a limp. He stopped next to Izuku and placed a bony, skinny, bloody hand on his shoulder. He opened his mouth wider, and his gray-colored tongue flopped out and hung loosely to the side as his rotten teeth dripped with saliva.
You're never leaving,
Izuku screamed. The wind outside picked up as the rain came down in the streets. Thunder cried out and rolled across the side. The street was empty of people as the storm grew stronger. Everyone was inside the comfort and safety of their homes. As the storm raged on, no one would have been able to hear Katsuki Bakugou's tortured screams as he was ripped apart by the longtime residents of 615 on the corner of Sunset and Anderson. I hope you weebs enjoyed this spooky fanfic. If you want to check out the original, please click on the link at the bottom of the description below. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and leave a comment down below. What are you going as for Halloween? Let me know. Anyways, that's enough for me. My name is Bizarre, and I'll see you weebs in the next video. Cue the outro.